It's always kind of fun to go, what if, right? Wait, right? I'm not the only one who thinks this is fun. Well, hopefully you think it's as fun as I do, because today we're going to be looking at 5 of the biggest what ifs in the theme park industry. One of these is from myself, and 4 of these are from viewers. Let's start with the one that really got this whole idea going in my brain. What if Disneyland had never opened? This would be sad more than anything. No Gadgets Go coaster, no Dumbo the Flying Elephant, no Storybook Land canal boats, and I guess none of the other major rides as well. But those of course pale in importance to the latter 3. Anyways, obviously we wouldn't know any better, but I would have to think eventually Disney would have opened a park, even if Disneyland hadn't been that park in 1955. It's an obvious way to make money and make their TV shows and movies even more popular because of their presence in the parks. Disneyland completely changed Disney and the theme park industry as a whole with the innovation that took place there. There were so many things that Disney did that had never been done before, and it paved the way for so many other parks. Disneyland was really a pioneer in a lot of ways. Now, it is interesting to talk about Matterhorn bobsleds, the first tubular steel roller coaster. If you want to talk about a pioneer, this roller coaster was the definition of that. Almost every steel coaster uses this track type today, and Matterhorn was the original back in 1959. It's still a great ride too, by the way, but the thing I'm getting at is, without this coaster, would aerodynamics have introduced this new track type? I think it's very possible, if not likely, that this track type still found a way somewhere else. It seemed like such a cool thing, and I'm sure another park would have jumped on board. So those are just a couple of side effects that Disneyland not opening could have. If you want to ask me personally, I'm very glad Disneyland did open. Zach Roche, what if Cedar Point stayed as a beach resort instead of an amusement park? Now this is weird to think about. Cedar Point just celebrated its 150th anniversary. So yeah, this place has been around forever, but it is known as the roller coaster capital of the world. Obviously, if they'd stayed as a beach resort, that would not be the case. Could they still be open and profitable? I bet. It's a very good location. But we wouldn't get lots of the amazing coasters that we've gotten today. Cedar Point has been on the edge of innovation for years now. Not only would we not have the coasters in park, but I don't think Cedar Fair would be quite the same. If Cedar Fair did indeed exist, the name would definitely be different, because Cedar Fair is a match of Cedar Point and Valley Fair. This park is a heavyweight in the amusement industry, and especially in Cedar Fair's lineup. On many occasions, Cedar Point has defined what thrill coaster means by continuing to break records. The question also has to be asked relating to Six Flags Worlds of Adventure. Would Six Flags have purchased that SeaWorld park and expanded it in the same way if they hadn't had the shadow of Cedar Point to deal with? I can tell you one thing though, if this hadn't become an amusement park, I think it would be one of the better beach resorts out there. Now, independent of that, but still related, Zach Roche, what if Magnum XL 200 was never made? Also, I'm sorry Zach, I may be mispronouncing your name. This is a very interesting one to think about as well. This obviously is in the scenario that Cedar Point did build roller coasters, just not this one in particular. Magnum, especially in its finale, is one of the most iconic coasters out there. And it's also credited as the first full circuit hypercoaster. This provided Cedar Point with a lot of notoriety, and it was just one of many ambitious coasters they built, and in all likelihood will continue to build. I would argue that this is one of the most important coasters ever built. At that time, coasters like this were extremely rare, really tall coasters that weren't focused on inversions, but instead focused on airtime and speed. Of course, now, most of the best coasters out there are focused on airtime and speed. If there's a hypercoaster or even a giga coaster, it's probably relying on these two elements. But don't get me wrong, this coaster was also extremely important for aerodynamics. Would they have developed the same way if they hadn't built this coaster? Godzilla 501. What if Ghost Rider was ARM-C'd instead of GCI'd? I honestly don't think this was very likely, but it's interesting to entertain this thought. The reference GCI'd is referring to when this coaster had a full retrack and new trains added by GCI. I think that was actually the better decision. I don't think this would be a particularly good RMC. Now, don't get me wrong, I really love Rocky Mountain Construction. But the original layout for this thing is pretty much perfect, and when you smooth it out and add comfy trains to it, it is just a perfect wooden coaster. Now, would it have been fun if it had been RMC'd? For sure. But Ghost Rider is perfect, and I'm glad they didn't mess with this coaster's layout. This is one of the very rare times where I think RMC was not the best decision, and I think Cedar Fair did make the best decision. If this coaster had been RMC'd, then there would be 5 RMCs in the state of California, which is kind of crazy to think about. Ultimately though, I think Cedar Fair made the right call here. I like the idea of smoothing this coaster out and adding new trains more than I do the RMC treatment. And finally, coaster productions. What if Splash Mountain was never built? This would have been sad because Splash Mountain is one of the best log flumes ever, and I hope it isn't ruined too bad by its retheme. If Splash Mountain was never built, then maybe we wouldn't have gotten some of the other log flumes we have over the years. Currently, this ride is the perfect blend of scenery, thrills, and theming. Unfortunately, a lot of that is changing as we speak, but if this ride was never made, Frontierland would definitely look a lot different for one thing. As far as serious repercussions of this are concerned though, I can't really think of any super impactful ones. As great of a ride as it is, I don't really think it changed the theme park industry in lots of tangible ways. This wasn't a new ride concept after all, log flumes had been done for many years before. I know I mentioned Frontierland, but at Disneyland it is located in Critter Country, so Critter Country would sure look a lot different without Splash Mountain. Being without one of, if not the best water rides of all time would be a bummer, but as far as serious impacts are concerned, I don't really think there are a whole lot. But anyways, that's going to do it for this list of some of the biggest what ifs in the theme park industry. I know this is kind of a random video idea and it's all hypothetical, but I was thinking about some of the what ifs I've heard for sports, like what if Patrick Mahomes, instead of being drafted to the Chiefs, had been drafted to the Bears, and things like that, and it got me thinking. And with a little bit of magic, the video that you just watched came to be. If you enjoyed this video and want more life-changing videos just like this, feel free to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. As always, thanks for watching. I'm gonna go get some ice cream. Should I put it in the microwave? Or is it the toaster?